The Houston Rockets trade package for Giannis Antetokounmpo has just been leaked, and it may surprise you as it consists of two Rockets players, including one NBA All-Star. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rockets Digest. I am your host, Donovan Ricondo, and we appreciate all the love and support we have been getting these past week. And for those of you that are not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? We're currently at 886, and we're trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the week. And so if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news, rumors, and updates regarding your H-Town team, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button below. We are going to cover all of it throughout the entire off season. And we're going to bring you stories like this one today. We're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo, and his name's been thrown around in terms of trade talks and him being open-minded for the very first time in his career to leaving Milwaukee. And on the top of that list is the Houston Rockets. And you might be asking yourself, what would that trade package look like? Well, there's been a lot of names throughout there so far, mainly Jalen Green with his lackluster playoff performance. He's been thrown into that conversation. Of course, recent reports have stated, the Rockets want to keep Jalen Green. We want to invest in him. He's the guy we're going to rely on in the playoffs in the future. All is well and said and done, but a new report reveals two players on the Rockets squad that could be involved in trade talks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. The first one we are going to talk about is Jabari Smith, as this new report just dropped last night. Jabari Smith Jr. is likely to be included in any potential deal for Giannis. And so let's talk a little bit about Jabari Smith Jr. We're going to talk about how did he do last season? Well, he's got 12.2 points per game, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, a little under a block per game. He just turned 22 years old, so happy belated birthday, Jabari Smith Jr. 6'11". He's a very solid spot shooter or catch and shoot shooter. That's kind of what he has been doing in terms of him being in the lineup. 97% of the 3C takes are assisted, so he is that catch and shoot kind of guy for our team. We don't have many of those, and that's what we need more of in this offseason, but he is that guy so far for that. And these stats look fine. Nothing, stands out terribly in all of these numbers here, but a little bit of background on Jabari Smith, right? He was the former number 3 overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft. And for a number 3 pick to be averaging these numbers, it doesn't quite sit well with the Rockets. We appreciate he's served as a fantastic role player in these matchups and throughout the entire season, which is good. That's fantastic, but it's not exactly what we were looking for in Jabari Smith. We were looking for someone who could be a little bit more effective scoring-wise, and be able to dribble off the ball and, drive in for layups and, create shots for himself. And I want to break down a little bit on his stats the past 3 seasons, because there has not been much growth in terms of that. So this year, you saw he was averaging 12.2 points. That is actually the lowest in the 3 years he's been on the Houston Rockets. It's not by much. I mean, last year he was 13.7 points. The year before that was 12.8. So there's a little bit of there is a decline there, not immensely. For his credit, he is consistent in that aspect of giving you those reliable, 12, 13 points per game. His field goal percentage right now, as you see on the graphic, his field goal percentage is 43% from the field, 35% from three-point land. Last year, he was shooting at 45% from the field and then 36% from three-point land. So not much of a difference. Like, it's still all relatively similar, technically smaller, but that's just not the kind of production that you would want from a number 3 overall pick. And he has shown flashes. To his credit, he has shown flashes of being able to score the ball. He had a couple of 30-point games in very crucial games this season. So He's a very solid player, but when it comes to adding a guy like Giannis, a guy like Jabari Smith is one who you are willing to, in fact, give up to make that trade. He will be included in that package. He's not a guy that we're married to, that we're absolutely committed to, and he does offer some value for a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. And so that's the first guy to be included in these trade talks for Giannis. And you're probably thinking, we are not doing a straight up one-on-one trade, Giannis for Jabari Smith Jr. That would be a fleece. No, that is not the trade. There's probably going to be some draft assets in there. A possible third team will be thrown in there. In my opinion, I feel like that has to happen for this trade to happen, for Giannis to go anywhere, basically. But who is the second player that has been in talks for a trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo? Well, that answer also might surprise you. According to a new report, it says that the Rockets would be open to trading Alperen Şengün in a package for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Houston could build a very compelling trade for the Bucks centered around Sengun, prospects like Jabari Smith Jr., and draft capital. Hold your horses. What the heck? Alperen Şengün possibly being in trade talks. Now, Alperen Şengün, the entire playoffs, was a key factor as to why that series went 7 games. Yes, Fred VanVleet and Steve Adams had valuable minutes, but Alperen Şengün was our guy. When Jalen Green failed to show up, who did we rely on? We relied on Alperen Şengün. He was the guy that was going to get us a bucket. And at times, it felt it was very, very easy for him to do that. He had the ball in his hands. He was able to drive. He was able to keep us in those games against the Warriors. And throughout the entire season, he has proven himself to be a fantastic option. We have him here, 19.1 points per game, 10.3 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. He's been getting better and better as the season went on, and he just proved himself this year, in my opinion. And from what the playoff series showed me personally, after watching that, I was like, Sengun is the guy. He's our foundation. He's part of the core that we are going to keep for years to come. And then the offseason happens. And then you hear things about Giannis. And you think to yourself, wait a second. What about Giannis? And it's very interesting to me because I felt like this was something that was a little bit more evident whenever Giannis trade talks first started out. And they were all focused on Jalen Green. Jalen Green for Giannis, add some draft prospects, maybe a third team. But in my mind, you would leave Giannis and Sengun on the same starting 5, which has a lot of upsides. Do not get me wrong, but I can totally see the front office not wanting to give up one of their better guards to have 2 bigs and not really have, you're going to over-rely on a guy like VanVleet, who, as great as a player as he is, cannot be that primary scorer for you the entire regular season and for your primary scorer for years to come, right? There has to be somewhere else, and Jalen Green is kind of that guy already. And so if you were to have that double big lineup, to me, just kind of doesn't really make sense. I think it works at times in terms of what Ime Udoka was able to do last year with Steven Adams and Sengun. I think it works in that aspect, but for your starting 5 and to get minus yourself a primary scorer like Jalen Green, to me, doesn't make much sense. And so to hear that the front office is intrigued by this, of okay, Giannis for Sengun, is very, very interesting considering the way Sengun played. And you have to ask yourself, if you were to substitute right now, if theoretically, if you were to put Giannis on this team and replace him with Sengun, get Sengun out of here, does the team immediately get better? And the answer to that, in my opinion, would be yes. If you just straight up switch their places, this Houston Rockets team would get better. We are talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo. We are talking about one of the best players in the NBA, 30 points per game last year, 12 rebounds. 6.5 assists, 1.2 blocks, a steal, minimized turnovers, 3 per game. He has proven himself 60% from the floor, which is freaking crazy. So yes, having Giannis replacing Şengün, of course, who wouldn't make that straight up one-on-one deal? I mean, obviously the Bucks wouldn't, but theoretically speaking, yes, he would make this team better. But when you consider what you are giving up and the fact that you would also be giving up essentially on the guy you've invested in for years, and you're giving up draft assets, the front office, in my opinion, if I was in that front office, that it just would not be quite worth it. For the fact that right now Şengün is a lot cheaper than a guy like Giannis. I understand there's an 11-point difference in terms of points per game. I think some of that has to do with, the way the Milwaukee Bucks play on everything is centered around Giannis. But still, that's an immense jump in terms of PPG. And so I just don't think doing that trade and getting rid of Şengün, who has proven himself. He's done everything right and correct in terms of like, hey, I bring value to this team. And I would hate to essentially punish the guy for showing too much value and being like, okay, we'll include you in a package to get someone a little bit better than you. Not a little bit, but like sizably a little bit better than you. And so in my opinion, I don't think the front office would make that move. Yes, it's intriguing because you would be adding a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo, but to straight up get rid of the guy who was your go-to guy in the playoffs, who was the guy you relied on and the guy that you have drafted and invested in, I just do not think that would be a wise decision from the Houston Rockets office. As great as Giannis is, as fantastic of a ball player he is, he's probably going to win another championship. I just don't know if doing that in Houston would be the correct way to do. Because if you really believe in these guys, if you're the front office and you want to keep the continuity and you want to keep the core that you have now, that tells me that you believe in them and that they can get the job done. And if you were to trade for a guy like Giannis, that would be the complete antithesis of that statement. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what this front office does and what happens with Alperen Şengün and what happens with a guy like Jabari Smith Jr. Now, let me know in the comments, is that a trade you're willing to make? Are you willing to give up Alperen Şengün and Jabari Smith and some draft picks for a guy like Giannis? And with that, I've been Donovan Ricondo. This has been an episode of Rockets Digest. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much.